Yeah, hello. Testing microphone. It's been a while since I did a video on YouTube. Um, just figuring out how this live streaming thing works, and I want to get more into live streaming instead of making traditional videos. Let me just clear my voice a bit. So, where as a developer, your work kind of becomes easier and difficult at the same time, whereby you have more tools. So it's sort of like to whom much is given, much is expected, right? You're not expected to do it and then learn much faster, build much faster, and think on a deeper level, right? So um, I'm still thinking around how to structure my YouTube channel going forward. I know I've not been consistent for a while, but I think my measure to counter that would be streaming videos instead of trying to make videos and edit and all. So I like to think on concepts, ideas, break down difficult concepts into simple ones. So today I'm just going to be talking about an interesting stack just to learn the intricacies of building products from a full stack approach. So this might be an interesting one to learn. So this stack actually involves using a couple of tools together. Some of them advanced, some of them pretty basic, but it all depends on how you want to use them. For full stack, I normally use Nuxt. You can also, I know a lot of people use Next, but I use Nuxt and Vue.js, right? So for full stack, it has a file-based routing for the backend. Components are pretty modular. It has like an exhaustive modules library, huge community support. So I like to use Nuxt for my full stack, right? For database, so this is where kind of gets interesting. So for database, I like to use MongoDB because I feel like MongoDB has a lot of features now, and it's even much uh, very fast, and it has support for vector databases in embeds. If you want to set up like image search, if you want to power like AI applications, MongoDB is very good. Another interesting one I like to use is Firestore. So some people don't consider Firestore like a proper database, probably because like it's a managed service, kind of like under Google, you know, under Google Firebase. But it's an interesting tool to use actually. So I use it sometimes as a database, right? But without the whole client stuff. But I'm going to also explain like how I integrate, right? So I use a bunch of common modules with Nuxt. I try to use Nuxt conventions as much as possible because it helps for team collaboration. I try not to modify or like make my own custom modules. If there's something out there, I just use it or like write a little plugin anyone can understand, right? So I like to use this Nuxt auth-utils is much better than rolling your own authentication. Because most times what you need in authentication is like some form of session management, JWT token, or one way to authenticate the user. Then you need a workflow with which like either on server or on client side to fetch information about the user, right, based on who is logged in, right? So this is a very robust tool. It has some hooks that you could use to fetch the user or maybe even permanently invalidate a token or something like that. So I like to use this tool like this tool. Then I use Pinia for front-end state management. Um, but I'm still trying to figure out whether to pick up like something like Pina Colada, like for fetching. I use Nox Fetch these days, but I'm trying to think of other things to append to this. Then there's this package called Nox Authorization, which is an interesting package. Has to do with like managing roles and permissions. It's something that I've not really got the time to use extensively, but I think I would like to adopt it probably with like properly written test on an application where I kind of like avoid like all these authorization packages. I like to write my own convention, but it might be much more robust to use an already existing solution for that, right? So let's just go deep into like what's unique about this stack. So what I normally do is on the side, let's say for a user's file, I'm able to Firebase admin to Firestore, right? And then I can add data or delete data, whatever it is that I want to do, Then on the front end, I fetch the data that I need. Then sort of one thing I do sometimes is to create like I use the client side, client side like a client side collection. This is something like logs or operations or trail. Just I just create a client side, um, set up with like a base permission whereby a user or user in a particular space or folder can actually track changes in that particular namespace, and then like using the real-time updates thing, right? I'm able to subscribe to changes to particular paths I'm interested in, or particular documents which I have permissions, right? And then on the front end, I can decide to invalidate the cache, right? So with Nox fetch tools, you can properly like set up caching and all that. But I think it will like Pina Colada will be much more exhaustive to use. So using the client side for Firestore, I can track when something changes and when I need to fetch the data. So as much as I believe so much in optimizing applications, but you need to do it right. So when I first fetch data, I believe in like catching it and storing it properly. Like if your application doesn't even need you to fetch all the time, you could use something like IndexedDB and like for local storage and keep the data there and only fetch it when you need to. So I also like kind of set up like a local store or local copy of whatever table is watching for changes, right? And then I have not really started to calculate the pricing implications per se, but like optimizing for like changes and like catching things here and there, it makes the system much more lean, right? So it helps to. I'm still working on it anyway, but what I'm really thinking through is like to make a lean application system whereby you don't call the server except you need to, right? So you need to trace changes in a particular space inside when something has changed or the client doesn't have, or the client has still data, right? So it's an interesting stack I've been using for a couple of weeks now, and yeah. So normally I would just use MongoDB, right? Normally I would just use MongoDB, but it's just something interesting I try to use because I used to use a lot of Firebase in the past, but I think I got tired of like the whole client rules. Sorry, not client rules, Firebase rules, or let's say Firestore rules, security rules. I think it would be much better if those rules are like in kind of like JSON, or they have like is it ATS or AST now, like a way to make sense or like compose with JavaScript those rules, kind of got tired of like using them in like very heavy systems. Although AI does help, but this is an interesting way I'm using it these days. Yep, let me not take too much on this live. It's just a test live to see how I do, how check it and see how my voice sounds. There's no video for now, like no camera. Probably I'll never need to show my face for now, but I just want to have this live to like discuss ideas, tips, what I'm thinking, and also collect feedbacks from people who are able to. Um, I want to share what I'm learning, and also want to learn from GitHub, Twitter, forums. But I think, yeah, and Discord, right? But I think a new level of learning will be like learning on the calls, learning on live streams, and then building from there. I also design a lot, so we'll get to design interfaces and code them up. Probably use a little bit of AI, like in a productive way, not like skipping the important stuff. But yeah, that's essentially what I've come here to talk about. Thank you. I don't know if anybody's in the stream, but if you passed by, thank you for coming. I hope to keep this consistent, probably every other day, right? And then we'll see where we go from there.